Hello and welcome to a special year-end edition of Starside Chat. We're going to be wrapping up 2024. I am one of your hosts, Aaron, and with me as always is Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Good. Yeah, I hope everybody had a good Christmas and is looking forward to the new year. And this is always one of my favorite episodes that we do, where we get to like recap the year a little bit and talk about our top games of the year.
We're doing a new thing this year. We're doing it bracket style for our game of the year, which we'll talk about later on.
I'm not sure how it's going to work. We're testing something out, and we'll see how it goes. I do also have like a standard top 10 that we can do if we need to do that at some point. But
I could generate a top 5, but you are more active on looking at new games than I am.
Okay. But we do have a little bit of news to talk about first.
Yes. The future of Xbox. What could it be? Zach, tell me what it is.
Well, so I saw this a couple weeks ago now. Windows Central had an article predicting the future of like next-gen Xbox hardware. And they sort of made it sound like it was going the way of like Windows PCs, where you have these other manufacturers making devices capable of running like the Xbox software, basically. And if you could get one that also had Steam on it,
yeah,
like I feel like that would be the ultimate. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure if I think that, because I think exclusives still play a role in this. And so as Xbox continues to move less and less, move away from exclusive games, and they just kind of want to put their software and their games on everything. I guess I a little bit don't know why like Lenovo making a box that could run your Xbox games would be any more successful than a Microsoft box that runs your Xbox games.
Yeah, it's an interesting strategy. I mean, because they would still make money off the licensing. Like any OEM that would want to distribute an Xbox, quote unquote, would need to like pay Microsoft, and then Microsoft really wouldn't have to do anything. That's just free money, basically.
Well, so here's a question then. Could like potentially a next gen PlayStation, could they just like pay the license and get Xbox on PlayStation?
It's a good question. I'm not sure yeah, I guess they could. That would be crazy. Then it would just really be the two giants. It would be PlayStation and Nintendo at that point.
Yeah, and that's why
Microsoft
I think
would start to fade away.
I think Xbox maybe is fading away, and they're sort of going the way of Sega and becoming a little bit more of a games publisher rather than, I mean, I guess they have like their cloud subscription service, and maybe that's a way to sort of keep the Xbox brand going, but I'm very curious to see how this goes, because the other element of this is that there have been rumors about how Steam wants to make a home console as well. Maybe that is the path forward for Xbox, is like get our software on there so that maybe you have like 2 storefronts or something. I don't know.
Well, here's something else. This isn't in our show notes.
Games are already on there, so I don't know.
This isn't in our show notes, but you mentioned Sega, and I read that they are weighing making their own subscription service, which I feel like is a bad call.
Yeah. I mean, other than like the Like a Dragon games, what does Sega have that I would want to?
Great question.
I mean,
the Sonic movies are really popping off, and everyone seems to be a 4-quadrant box office banger. So maybe they think they can parlay that into Sonic games that are good. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. The article that we have in the show notes sounds more optimistic than maybe we're putting it, as far as like the future of Xbox and how maybe they could execute on an interesting future for the platform that would change the industry in an interesting way. And maybe some of that is just like making handheld devices as well, but it could be a future where Microsoft isn't the only one building Xboxes.
I wouldn't hate it.
It'd be interesting. I can't wrap my head around like why that would necessarily be better than the current situation, just different people making the console.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe I'm just not seeing the big picture, but Speaking of big pictures, Christopher
IMAX.
Nolan is going to has already announced his next movie is going to be an adaptation of the Odyssey.
Did you hear the wild rumors about this before they figured out what it was?
No.
So for weeks, I feel like I've been hearing stuff about like, what is the next Christopher Nolan movie? No one knows what it is. And there was like casting rumors that it was going to star Matt Damon and Tom Holland as some sort of duo. I heard a rumor that it was going to be about a vampire duo set in like the past. Then the most wild rumor I heard was it was going to be about some sort of like futuristic helicopter elite squad, like an elite squad of people that used some sort of fancy futuristic helicopter. And it was going to be about a duo of people that did that. And that was, I wasn't sure what to think about that. But I don't know where that helicopter, I don't know where that came from or if that's a script that's floating around somewhere, but I'm interested in this future helicopter script. But in fact,
maybe that's the future one beyond like what he's doing with the Odyssey. It's
the Odyssey. So, I don't know if that Matt Damon thing was true or not, but I wonder.
Well, he's supposed to star in this movie.
Okay,
supposedly.
So that is true.
At least according to this Deadline article I'm looking at. As previously announced, Nolan's latest will star Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, Robert Pattinson, and Charlize Theron. And probably other people as well. I'm sure we'll get more cast announcements going forward.
What do we think about this? What level of real or like what am I trying to say? How fantasy is this going to be, and how realistic is it going to be?
It's a good question. Will it be like super true to the story? Is it going to take its own liberties? I mean, I am more excited about this than I ever was Oppenheimer, even though Oppenheimer I think was a great movie. I'm more excited about this for some reason. I think this, because it is possible like fantasy or just like a different setting than I think we've seen from Christopher Nolan before.
Yeah.
I think it could be super interesting to see how he tackles it.
Now, this is coming at a weird time because that The Return movie just came out. Have you watched that movie?
No.
That is the end of the Odyssey, basically. It's Ralph Fiennes, and he is Odysseus who comes back, and then his like dog recognizes him, and then there are all those suitors who want to be with his wife, and then she's like, I got to finish this map or this quilt or whatever. And then she's like, I'm going to marry whoever can shoot this arrow through a bunch of axes. And then he does. But it's weird because this movie just came out. So I guess you can maybe watch it, and then this will be a prequel to that movie.
Yeah, they probably took very different approaches, but I guess it would be interesting to maybe watch them as like a double feature. But
I'm so curious. I mean, here's a guy, Christopher Nolan is a guy who, one of the reasons we love him is because he loves practical effects. And this is potentially a movie that could have a lot of like fantastic things in it. And how would those work if there really is a giant Cyclops? What does that look like? Or is it just going to be a big guy who's missing an eye? Is it that sort of realism where it's just like, I found a 6 foot tall guy and he's going to have an eye patch on, and that's our quote unquote Cyclops?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm so curious to know if he does go full fantasy, then I think the effects we're going to see in this, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be so crazy to see him make these things come to life, and it's not just going to be a CGI mess, you know?
Right.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it as well. I always like watching new Christopher Nolan movies, so it'll be cool, exciting. Did they say when to expect this, or is this still like pretty early stages?
I think it's probably pretty early. I would guess maybe fall 2026. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how early on it is.
The film brings Homer's foundational saga to IMAX film screens for the first time and opens in theaters everywhere on July 17th, 2026.
Okay, so summer 2026.
So there you go. summer blockbuster. Not next year, but the year after.
Hey, speaking of movies, before we get on to the Switch news, did you watch that Superman trailer?
Oh, no, I saw it, that it was out and people were reacting to it, but I kind of didn't care enough to watch it. Did it look good?
I don't know. I have a lot of problems with Man of Steel. Henry Cavill's a cool guy. He seems like a nice guy who's very into PC gaming and whatnot. And I'm excited for his Warhammer thing because I think he's going to get some creative control in that. But I had a lot of problems with the plot. There, I think, are some undeniable plot holes in Man of Steel that I did not care for. And so this, I think, at the very least, I will, based on this trailer, I believe I will like it more than Man of Steel. But I'm curious because they did this dumb thing where first they had a teaser for the teaser trailer, and then this thing that they've released is the teaser trailer. So we're not getting any plot. It's just sort of like shots of things, not really a lot of dialogue. At some point in the future, we'll get a full trailer where we get like plot details. But just based on the teaser, one of the things I hated the most about Man of Steel is they immediately got rid of the thing I think that makes Superman interesting, or one of the things that makes Superman interesting, is that, you know, his secret identity. So like he and Lois Lane are hanging out, but then he goes off and is Superman and she's unaware. And Man of Steel completely gets rid of that and she immediately knows who he is. And in this one, I think they are maintaining his secret identity, which I think is a fun thing that we don't really get in. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. In most modern superhero movies, except for Spider-Man, there's no secret identity. Everyone is just like, oh, this is Iron Man. This is Doctor Strange. So you don't get that duality, except for in the Spider-Man movies where eventually his identity is revealed. But I think it's a fun thing about superhero movies that has been lost in Marvel.
Yeah, that's true. You got it a little bit in the Nolan Batman movies, but the one thing I've heard about the trailer is that it seems to be like indicating a return to the old like Christopher Reeve style Superman movies where they're a little bit more colorful and a little bit more true to the Superman that we know, as opposed to sort of the more dour, what's his name?
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder, Man of Steel version. So I think that would be an improvement, but is it too late for superhero stuff? Are people still burnt out on superheroes, or
has it
been enough time?
I liked that Matt Reeves Batman with Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
And I just heard that the sequel got pushed back again, and it's not going to come out until 2027. But I'll watch a Batman movie, but I don't know that I need, like, I'm not like super excited. I don't even know what the next Marvel movie is that's coming out. Is it? It might be the new Captain America with Harrison Ford. That one I am a little interested in because I want to see Harrison Ford become a Hulk. But other than that, I don't know what else is on the docket.
Yeah, and I guess this new Superman is the like start of the new James Gunn DC film universe, so maybe things will be interesting moving forward, but I don't know. It just feels like everybody has, like, you know, had their meal, had their dessert, they're packing up ready to go, and somebody else is like, hey, let's keep this party going. And everybody's like, no, we've had enough. It's time for bed. So maybe I'm wrong, and there is going to be like a bunch of excitement for like a next wave of like superhero stuff, but remains to be seen.
I have an update about the Switch 2. It's time for our weekly segment, Switch 2 Rumor Roundup.
Okay.
Obviously, there have been some leaks. Who's to say if they are legitimate or not? But analysts say there's some forums that are supposedly revealing that this has pushed up Nintendo's timeline to reveal the Switch 2. And now they are shooting for, as we're recording this, about 2 weeks from now. They say that the Switch 2 will be revealed on January 8th, and that the new Metroid Prime 4 will be a launch title. I think that's the main rumors. It's January 8th, which unfortunately I will be in a plane on January 8th. So I maybe will not get to watch this reveal live. If they do what they have previously done, where the day before they post a picture and they're like, hey, tune in tomorrow, I will get to see that picture, but then the live stream might be happening while I'm in the air, which I'm a little bummed about. But if it happens on the 8th, I'll be happy because it will at least have happened.
Yeah. I mean, take it with a grain of salt.
Of course,
it'll be interesting if they do just suddenly come out and be like, hey, get ready for Switch 2 reveal.
We need it.
Yeah, I think Nintendo needs it. Like we were just talking before we started recording about how neither of us really spent much time playing our Nintendo consoles this year. And I think that is in large part to do with the fact that they didn't have any like huge Zelda level release.
Yeah.
But also they are in this weird holding pattern while we're just like everything is probably being delayed for Switch 2.
Sure.
So can they even afford to like wait until fall of next year before they launch a new console? Or do they need to get to the point where they can release this thing in like the spring or early summer and, I don't know, give us something else to buy? Because I have to think that the sales have really fallen off for them over the last year or two.
My current theory is this is accurate. January 8th is accurate, and we'll get an April/May release date for the console.
Yeah, I hope you're right because I'm very much looking forward to Switch 2. And if they have like a really cool launch lineup, that would be awesome. It would give us a lot to talk about for sure.
Very true. Zach, it's bracket time. Explain the bracket.
So this is very scientific. I have copy and pasted a list of 24 games that at least one of us has played. So that's the real kicker here, is that you're not going to see games that neither of us played. So we have at least one of us has to have played it.
There is one game that neither of us has played.
Oh, is there? Maybe there is. Maybe I forgot about it. Either way, this is mostly games that we have played and maybe one game that we have just watched a lot of and so we're very aware of it. I pasted that into one of those AI chatbots and said, hey, make me a bracket. And it churned out a quick little bracket. So we have a round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4, round 5, and we will announce the Starside Chat winner of Game of the Year.
Should we dive into it?
We're going to dive in with the first matchup, and we'll have to, I guess, argue back and forth as to which one we think deserves to win.
This first one is a layup. So match number 1, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth versus UFO 50. I petitioned for UFO 50 to be on here. This is the game that neither of us has played. I think this game is going to have a renaissance next year because I think it's going to be available immediately on the Switch 2. I don't think enough people are aware of it for it to have gotten the groundswell of support that it needed. I mean, it was nominated for Best Indie at the Game Awards, but that, of course, went to Balatro, or however you say it. But since neither of us has played it, I'm comfortable giving this to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought you had played UFO 50, but
I'm holding out for the Switch 2.
For sure, even if you had played it, I would probably fight tooth and nail to get Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to move forward into the next round.
Okay, I have pasted it into the winner.
Okay, so that's moving on to the next round. Match 2 is Helldivers 2 versus Factorio Space Age DLC.
Now, it is controversial to put a DLC. Obviously, everyone had opinions about Erdtree being nominated for Game of the Year.
Right.
What are your thoughts? I never played Helldivers 2.
I really liked Helldivers 2, and I kept meaning to jump back into it, but I am comfortable ceding this one to you given the amount of time you put into Factorio Space Age DLC.
It really is crazy, because to think about it, Factorio had like it initially was you make the rocket, you beat the game. And then for a long time, it had a good modding community where people would have versions, kind of like Minecraft, where you would play like Tekkit Minecraft or basically like that. But the DLC really does make it a full game, because now building the rocket is basically only maybe like a third of the game. You build the rocket and then you start going to planets and maximizing everything. And it's a bummer that Factorio never goes on sale, and Factorio is $35 and the DLC is $35, and it's always going to be that way. So like the new price of admittance is $70, and down the line that may disqualify this and make it we don't choose it. But I think it should at least move on to the next round.
Okay, I'm good with that. So Factorio Space Age DLC defeats Helldivers 2 and moves forward. Matchup 3.
This is gonna be a tough
I think
one.
this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
It is Deep Rock Galactic Survivor versus Animal Well. And this is a tough one because I know you absolutely love Animal Well.
Well,
and I absolutely love Deep Rock Galactic Survivor.
I read an interesting article about Animal Well recently, because I do really like all the crazy stuff that it's doing, but the crazy stuff that it's doing does make it's a game made for the internet age, because you beat the game and then there are like 4 secret endings. To get that 4th secret ending, it would be almost impossible without the help of a community. Which is kind of a bummer if you're just playing this solo and you don't really want to. I mean, it's doing cool stuff. Like that, one of the coolest things it did was that thing where you go into the office, you activate the computer, and then if you have a printer on your network, your printer prints out a puzzle for you. There's a lot of great clips on YouTube of that happening to streamers and them having their minds blown. But the fact that, like, specifically one of the rabbit puzzles, when you complete it, it's different. There's like 32 or something different type. Like your game is set to be one of those 32 variables, and you have to find 31 other people in order to put the like thing together. It's a really cool idea, but as a game, I don't know. I'm conflicted on it, because Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, you could play by yourself and probably get most of the achievements and have a great time forever. Whereas Animal Well, you're going to hit this wall where you really need to like go online and like talk to other people, which makes me think, I mean, it's a great game and it's doing a lot of innovative stuff, but I don't think it moves forward.
I was going to say, the other thing for me is like I played Animal Well and I enjoyed it well enough as just like a sort of a 2D platforming sort of Metroidvania type of a game. I didn't finish it. I got stuck on the part where you had the big cat dog thing chasing you.
Oh, yeah.
I must have tried that like 10 times and kept failing and got to the point where I was like, I'm just going to put this down for now. And I just never went back to it. But Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, on the other hand, like I would say like time-wise, value for money.
Yeah. For sure.
You can play Deep Rock Galactic for like over 100 hours, I would say. And it's like $10. And I played this off and on all year long. I don't know if it is a ding against it that it's still technically in early access. So it's not technically a full release yet.
I think that's fine.
But I love Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, and I'm probably higher on it than you think if we started pairing it up against other games.
I think we got to give it to DRGS.
Okay. I will move this down, and I'll let you get started talking about the next one.
What's there to say about the next one? I feel like we both... Well, I guess I don't know how high you are on the second title, but it's Balatro versus SteamWorld Heist 2.
I like SteamWorld Heist 2, but this is very clearly Balatro's win.
That was my thought as well. So I will paste Balatro, a very quick match, into here. Paste. Now, these are 2 games. These next 2 games are 2 that you only played. So... or only you played, I should say, is maybe the better way to say that. The Plucky Squire versus Black Myth Wukong.
I had my problems with the Plucky Squire. If you go back and listen to I think we talked about it probably on multiple different podcasts, and I thought it had some good ideas, but it was not as great a game as I was hoping it would be. But I was very high on Black Myth Wukong, so I think very easily this one will move forward. So that's match 5.
Number 6, you played Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, and we both played Luigi's Mansion 2D.
Now, I think because we both played Luigi's Mansion 2D HD, that gives it a little bit of an extra point in its favor. I did not finish either of these games. I don't know if you made it to the end of Luigi's Mansion.
We got to, I think, the third or fourth mansion. I'm trying to remember which one we were at. I think it was like a pump station. I don't remember. It was like an Old West, maybe. I don't remember. But we had a lot of fun playing it. We just kind of dropped it after the October season.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit it for me too. We were in the appropriate season and I was having fun playing it. But then once we kind of moved beyond that, I just kind of started playing other things. But
they could have done a couple more things to modernize it for the Switch. Like, it was a bummer that there was a button you needed to press to like look up because it was still kind of synced to the 2DS or whatever. But or 3DS. I don't know. I had a lot. I mean, it's definitely no Luigi's Mansion 3, obviously, but I really liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Echoes of Wisdom, what I played of it, but I think if and when I eventually decide which of these two to go back to, it probably will be Luigi's Mansion 2, so I'm good with that one moving up.
I have pasted it into the next slot.
All right, well, the next matchup is match 7. Thank goodness you're here versus Pal World. This is an interesting one.
I played maybe, so when I got my Xbox, I subscribed to Game Pass, and it's on Game Pass. So I played Pal World for 5 hours maybe, but kind of just messing around and not really optimizing everything.
I played a little longer than that, but again, it was mainly just like messing around, trying to figure stuff out and seeing how things went. And I definitely thought it was like a fun, charming twist on like the Pokemon meets like Valheim style of game. But it is not necessarily my type of game. Yeah. Whereas Thank Goodness You're Here, much shorter, like a very short game by comparison, but I don't know, something that's like quirky and charming and has Matt Berry in it. And
I was going to say, the fact that it has Matt Berry in it, I feel like makes it move forward.
Yeah, I think that's enough to move that one up.
Copy and paste. Okay, what's our next one?
For match 8, we have a little game called Rusty's Retirement versus the First Descendant. So
now you revealed to me before we started recording that you have 56 hours in Rusty's Retirement.
It's true. It's one of those games that plays out on like the lower third of your screen, so you can be doing other things on your computer as this is running. And it is a little bit, you sort of set up automation at your farm to basically have all the tasks do themselves. But you're like unlocking things and you keep going and you kind of have to work to get to that point. And so it is just like a very like chill farming sim that you can be playing while like watching YouTube on your computer for hours on end. And if you have it set up to the point where you can kind of have most of it automated, you can walk away from your computer and, you know, go eat lunch, go take a shower, go do some other stuff and come back. And suddenly you have all these resources to play around with. And so that would frequently happen. And that's why my hour total in Rusty's Retirement is a little bit inflated. But even if you account for that, I've played way more of this than I have the First Descendant. I really just like logged in and tried that out. And I was like, this seems fun enough as like sort of a free to play Destiny style game. But it is not something I kept going back to. So I am definitely giving this one to Rusty's Retirement.
Paste it in. And now we're into round 2. So this is the winners of round 1 versus some additional games. Our Sweet 16. First up, and I don't know how much of a layup this one is. Match 9, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth versus Epic Mickey Rebrushed.
Yeah, I liked Epic Mickey Rebrushed quite a bit. I still think this is a little bit of a layup for Rebirth, even though I have my problems with Rebirth, but both good games, but definitely an easy win for Rebirth.
Paste this guy in. Now this one I'm not really sure. I didn't play Black Ops 6, but you did, so
yeah,
this is Factorio DLC, I should say, versus Call of Duty Black Ops 6.
I definitely liked what I played of this, but if it is any indication, I have already let my Game Pass sub expire, so I'm not actively playing it. A little bit of that is because of Marvel Rivals has sort of filled the slot of
Supplanted.
my multiplayer gameplay at the moment. But I think Black Ops 6 was fun, but I am very comfortable letting Factorio move forward.
Let's move it down the line. I don't know that it was going to win the next one, but I'm glad it surpassed.
You've set up a tough matchup for the next round.
Match number 11, Deep Rock Galactic Survivor versus Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. This is another matchup where you're the only one that has played both of these.
This one will kill me a little bit inside to not move forward Prince of Persia, because I think that's a great game and I had a lot of fun with it, but I've definitely put more time into Deep Rock Galactic Survivor and it's definitely more addicting. And it's definitely one that I'm still going to be playing more of as we move forward. So I'm going to move that one forward.
Now here's another tricky one. Match number 12, Balatro versus Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
Yeah,
what are your hour totals on both of these?
I couldn't give you an accurate one for Balatro because I've played it across like 3 different platforms at this point. But my Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth hour total was 158 hours, according to my PlayStation Year in Review.
Quite a bit.
If it were just me accounting for it, it would be Infinite Wealth. But I think the fact that both of us have played and loved Balatro and put a lot of time into it, I'm okay deferring to that if that is the choice that you would make. But
I don't know. I love that Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth exists, and I played it. I fell off of it for some reason, and I want that series to continue because it's so. I love hearing people describe playing it because the insane situations you get into are so fun.
And it does have like a full, basically Animal Crossing minigame in it, and a full Pokemon side quest minigame in it as well.
I almost feel like because Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth didn't get to win at the Game Awards, we should give it to that because Balatro got its accolades at the Game Awards.
That's a fair point. I like your thinking. And so Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is going to move up.
Match 13, Black Myth Wukong versus Marvel Rivals.
Now, this, I guess, is down to me again.
I played a little bit of I downloaded Marvel Rivals on my Xbox. And I played through or I just like jumped into like the sandbox, but I have not really dove in.
I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I think I will keep playing it, at least for the near-term future. I'm very curious to see, like, once sort of the first real season of, like, content starts rolling out for it, how things go. I a little bit wonder if they will pick up the slack left by Overwatch and, like, add a single-player or co-op mode.
Interesting.
Like, if they did that, they would basically bury Overwatch.
Yeah.
Because, like, the number of people playing Marvel Rivals right now is, like, skyrocketing.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I haven't played enough of it yet, and to say that I would like it more than Wukong. I'm very high on Black Myth Wukong, so I think I would personally give it to that.
Give it to BMW. Oh, BMW, like a car.
Yeah. That's what that stands for. I never knew.
Match 14, Luigi's Mansion 2D versus Astrobot. And Zach, I will now reveal on the podcast that on Christmas Day, my wife surprised me with a PlayStation 5.
It's a pretty good gift, I gotta say.
That evening, we played through Astro's Playroom, which was a real delight. I'll have more to talk about at the end of the show. Mm-hmm. But I have started playing Astrobot, and I love it. And I believe that it should proceed.
I am in full agreement that it moves forward.
I will cut and paste, or copy and paste it, rather. So
our next one, match 15, is Thank Goodness You're Here versus Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. Unless you like really have a big defense for Thank Goodness You're Here, I am in favor of giving this to Space Marine 2.
Yeah, go for it. I'm not like, it was a wonderful game, but I'm not married to it.
Yeah, I mean, Space Marine 2, not just because time-wise you get a lot more bang for your buck with that one, but also it's just a really good game.
Match 16, the final match of our Sweet 16. Rusty's Retirement versus Dragon's Dogma 2. Dragon's Dogma 2 I only am aware of because the McElroy brothers did some Monster Factories about Dragon's Dogma 2. And those are very fun to watch, but I have not played the game.
It is good. I didn't get around to finishing it. I liked what I played of it, though. It's very interesting, like the pawn system of this game. And this is another game that I don't think got its due at like Game Awards and stuff. Like it should have gotten a little bit more love from people, but I'm going to throw you a curveball and say I think I would move forward Rusty's Retirement just based on the hour count.
Do it. Yeah, I'm into that.
All right. And perhaps an upset on this one.
We have made it to the quarterfinals, round 3. This is the winners from round 1 and round 2 combined. Match 17, Final Fantasy VII, 2 Fs. FF7 Rebirth and FSA DLC, Factory Space Age DLC. I believe that if I had played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it would be my game of the year, possibly. And
it would be the one you'd move forward here.
I have not purchased it yet, but when I finish Astrobot, that's the next thing I'm going to play on my PlayStation. I cannot wait. So
I'm actually really excited to hear your thoughts on Rebirth.
I'm spoiler free, so I don't know what the ending is, and I'm very curious to see.
I think it'll be fun to talk through that on the podcast for sure.
We definitely should. We should do a spoiler talk about it. I love the Space Age DLC, and I will continue to love it and play it, but looking ahead, it's got to be FF7 Rebirth.
I'm good with that. Yeah, I know this one was the challenge for you to decide, but
I think it's inevitable. Okay, so what's up next?
Match 18 is Deep Rock Galactic Survivor versus Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. And this is where I have to say it was a good run for Deep Rock Galactic. It made it further than maybe it should have, but I'm definitely going with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth on this one.
I think I would agree, even though I only played like 20 hours of Like a Dragon.
Match 19 is Black Myth Wukong versus Astrobot. Now, this one's very difficult for me because I think personally I have Black Myth Wukong higher than Astrobot, but I love Astrobot so much that it would not pain me in the least based on the fact that both of us have actually played Astrobot and like it if it moved up.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what to do with this because by all accounts, I mean, you had glowing reviews of Black Myth Wukong, but I haven't played it. I mean, I'm in the process of playing Astrobot and loving it. So I maybe have
I think based on that, based on the fact that both of us have played and love Astrobot, I'm cool with moving that one up, even though it pains me a little bit because I do love Wukong so much.
Match 20, the penultimate quarterfinals, or I guess it's the final quarterfinals. Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2 versus Rusty's Retirement.
Again, a fun, nice little run for Rusty's Retirement, making it further than expected, but I think I'm going with Space Marine 2 on this one.
Okay. Round 4, the semifinals. What is our first match?
So our first matchup is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth versus Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
These are your two most played games you were telling me before we started recording.
It's true. So I checked my PlayStation 2024 year in review just before we started recording the show, and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth was at 158 hours, which I did not realize because that's a lot. And second was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at 92 hours. Now, between the two of these, I know you're much more excited to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
It's true, but I have not played it.
True. And between the two of these, I like Infinite Wealth more. So that's where we're at.
I am fine with that. I think I like a Dragon Infinite Wealth moving forward.
Okay, so let's move Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth forward. And our next matchup is Astrobot versus Space Marine 2.
What are your thoughts on this? I am leaning Astrobot. Again, that's maybe I have recency bias because I'm in the thick of it right now, experiencing it for the first time.
I'm also leaning Astrobot. I don't think it's that close. I like Space Marine 2 a lot, and I had a lot of fun playing it, but it would definitely go to Astrobot for me.
We've made it to the final round.
We have made it, finally. And the penultimate matchup, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth versus Astrobot. And I, a little bit, I'm not surprised that this is where we're at. And do we just do the boring thing that the Game Awards did and give it to Astrobot?
I mean, unless you really want to make a case, I could be persuaded to give it to Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. I think a little bit. I mean, they're doing. It's crazy how much content they packed into. I mean, you're right. There is a full Animal Crossing game in Infinite Wealth, which is wild.
So, to reveal my list that I guess I can give us later on, but Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth is my personal game of the year. Over Astrobot. I like Astrobot a lot, but there's just so much to it. It's I love the characters in it. I think Ichiban Kasuga is like my favorite game protagonist of like the last however many years, probably even going back to like Mass Effect.
Wow.
And I really, that turn-based combat that they had really grew on me in this one. I think they did enough to like update it and make it more interesting.
The fact that you could move around was a huge game changer. Yeah,
and the setting of Hawaii is so much fun. I really liked just roaming around Hawaii and doing all the side quests and everything. And yeah, it does have like we talk about how in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, they had a lot of mini games, but they weren't necessarily like good mini games you would want to repeat. A lot of it sort of felt like content to sort of fill content or fill time and pad it out. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth has a lot of content and it doesn't feel the same way. It just feels like genuinely fun to play all of that stuff. And like it has a full on Animal Crossing mode, and it has the Sujimon League, which is basically a Pokemon League side story that's like super fun to play as well. And it's so well designed that all of that like feeds into each other. So if you like do complete the Sujimon League, you unlock a new class for Ichiban, and it's like super powerful. And if you like complete the Animal Crossing style thing, you get this like ultimate weapon basically where you shoot a laser from a satellite down and it destroys everything in combat. It is just like everybody talks about how Astrobot is just like this fun, joyous thing. Somehow they managed to do it in Infinite Wealth where everything is pretty fun and joyous as well. And they have mastered the art of like swinging from this like heartfelt story beat to like wild, now you're hanging out with a group of people whose thing is they just wear diapers. And it somehow works. And so, I also like don't really know Kiryu that well as far as like the previous games, having not played them, but somehow through the course of like playing this game, it made him like super likable and cool, and you were rooting for him and you wanted him to like survive and make it. And so I think they're just like, their storytelling is on another level with these games. So that's my passionate plea for Infinite Wealth.
I will say I was very excited to play Astrobot because I heard a lot of people saying like, oh, it's like a Mario Odyssey level of game. And I think it's more a Mario Galaxy type of game because some parts of it are, I don't like that it is like level based. I mean, because Odyssey is, I think, the best. This is maybe controversial to say, but I think Odyssey is the best Mario game because you can run around and just do whatever you want, and you're not jumped out of a level when you get a star or a moon or whatever. And the movement is so tight, and there's so much exploring to do. Whereas a game like Mario Galaxy 2 or Astrobot is, you're in a level, you're going through it, but in the back of your mind, you're like, it's a job I have to look everywhere. And if I get a bot and it's not the next bot in line,
I have to go back.
I have to stop what I'm doing. The fun has to stop. I have to turn around and inch by inch figure out where I missed a bot. And I think Astrobot 2 could, I think they could make a perfect game if they took like a line from Odyssey and the next game is like zone based where you're kind of running around and the bots are each their own little puzzle type of thing. So
it's been a hot minute since I last played Odyssey, but it almost feels like they hide the structure of like level based gameplay in Odyssey. Whereas in Astrobot, it does feel a little bit more old school, where it's like laid out in like an overworld, and you sort of see the structure laid out in front of you.
And for that reason, I think maybe we give it to Infinite Wealth.
Ooh, I almost didn't see this coming, but I like it.
It's an upset.
It's an upset for sure. I'm ready to copy and paste Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth as our champion.
There we go. 2024, the Starside Cafe, Starside Everything Game of the Year is Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
That was fun.
I liked that format. I think that's more fun than going back and forth and giving our own top fives or top tens.
It is a fun twist on the format that maybe we will move forward with and try it again next year.
We shall see.
All right, let's get into what we're playing and watching. So I am very curious. You did lay out a little bit of your time with Astrobot, but let's hear more.
It's a PS5 is a crazy thing, Zach, because I was not prepared for how crazy the controller is. It's crazy how, and I don't know if this is true of every PlayStation 5 game, but it's crazy how much of the sound comes out of the controller is split between the TV and the controller. Like, it's not just like a few little effects. Like, there's so much. It's like such a blend. It's such an immersive thing that like sound is constantly coming out of the controller and constantly coming out of the TV. And I thought the most impressive thing was going to be the triggers, which are very cool.
Yeah.
But I almost feel like the soundscape they create with the controller is more interesting.
Yeah, especially with Astrobot. Like the team Asobi that made the Astro's Playroom and Astrobot really do a great job of not just like, they have a thing where you grab something with the right trigger and it is harder to pull down. And so it feels immersive from that aspect. Or like there's a little bit of motion to the controller when you're like flying in with your like, what do you call it? Like your glider. But they also like, if something's zipping up or down, you hear that in the controller, and it just like adds that as he's like walking across like a glass floor or something, you hear his footsteps go as well. And so it just like adds this extra immersive layer to the game. And you don't get that with every PlayStation game for sure. This is something that like, back in the 3DS days, Nintendo would have mandated that every developer of a game on that platform try in some way to implement all the different features of that device. This feels like sort of going back to that, where PlayStation is like, we have this controller that can do all this stuff. Make us a game that highlights each of those features. And they do it in such a smart way that you just think, why isn't everyone doing this?
It's so crazy. It like struck me so much, even I think it was in Astro's Playroom, even before I got Astrobot, it started to rain in a level. And so like a little umbrella popped up over your head, and I could hear the raindrops and also kind of feel the raindrops in the controller, which I feel like was the promise of the Joy-Cons when they had that weird little demo with like an ice cube in a glass. I'm not sure if that was ever achieved. But I think it is achieved with, what is it called? The DualSense? Is that what the new controller is called?
The DualSense. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it before, but it is a little bit PlayStation out Nintendoing Nintendo.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That does a little bit make me wonder what a next-gen Switch 2 Pro controller could be like. Here's
what else I wasn't expecting. There's so many different types of levels you jump into. Like, all of a sudden there are these triangle levels that have appeared.
Oh, yeah.
And now I didn't realize that at the end of every zone, I'm going to get a little bespoke other game I get to play. Like when I got to play Ape Escape after the first series of levels, that was such a delight. And now I just got done with playing the God of War one. which was amazing and I loved. And there's like, they put so much detail in it. Like you can even find ravens in it, which is crazy. And
there's a trophy tied to finding all the ravens, and like the music is like an Astrobot version of the music from God
you can hear. I think it even mixes Kratos saying "boy" into the music, which is very funny. I have not been spoiled about what the other final levels are, but I'm very excited to see what they are and what types of games I get to play. It is crazy. Like there are some repeats. Like sometimes you'll get the same power up, like you have the same like boxing gloves or whatever, a couple levels in a row. But pretty consistently, it's a new interesting thing every level. Which I also the theming of each zone I feel like could be a little tighter, because I feel like every zone has like a jungle for some reason. But other than that, I'm loving it. I'm loving the PlayStation 5, and I cannot wait to dive into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth at some point in the near future.
I was going to say, it'll be super fun to discuss going through that game with you, such that we should almost do like a weekly check-in to see where you're at.
I'm into it, yeah.
But yeah, so Astrobot, super fun. They have added new stuff to it as well, but you might have to get to the end of the game.
You have to beat it before the Christmas stuff happens.
Okay. I was going to say, look forward to that, because that was a pretty fun little extra add-on that they give you. So I have not played that much stuff this week. I play just because I've been hanging out with family, but maybe a little bit more Marvel Rivals, and I did dive back into both Deep Rock Galactic Survivor because I had my Steam Deck with me while I was, had time off for the holidays. But I also took my PlayStation Portal and played a little bit more Baldur's Gate 3.
Ooh, how are you progressing? How do you like it?
Not much progress has been made. Very, very little. But it is like, it is so deep where like just about every conversation you have, like there's going to be some sort of possibility that you're going to have a dice roll, and like somebody's going to remember that, or somebody dislike that, or somebody like that. And it does a little bit create that anxiety in me. I'm like, oh, am I angering the friends that I want to be making right now? But it is one of those things where I will also probably like save scum a lot to get the results I want. But yeah, I don't know. I'm enjoying it so far. It's been very cool. I haven't done enough of the combat yet. I've mostly like, there's been a little bit of combat from, I think when I first started playing and was going through sort of the intro and everything, and you get to that first area. But beyond that, I've mostly just been running around talking to people and like meeting a bunch of different characters and everything, and adding some to my party. And that is the kind of thing that actually works really well for a PlayStation Portal, because like I'm not playing Marvel Rivals on it, for instance, where I have to have like split second timing and, it's online PvP stuff. This is like turn based. So it ends up working out really perfectly for the Portal. But did you get a chance to watch License to Kill?
No, I did buy it.
Oh.
So it's I have the ability to watch it whenever I want. But I have not watched it yet. Although every year my wife and I have a tradition where we try to watch at least 3 movies on New Year's Eve. And usually they're in the same franchise, but it might be one of the movies we watched on New Year's Eve, because I have the day after New Year's Eve off, so I can stay up super late.
Perfect.
I did watch another movie though.
Okay.
Zach, have you ever watched The Last Kiss Goodnight? Or no, I'm sorry, The Long Kiss Goodnight.
I was going to say, I think this is a movie you've recommended to me multiple times over the years.
I always forget about it. And I forget that it's a Christmas movie. It's been on my list to rewatch for a long time, but I was looking for something for us to watch on the day of Christmas after everybody left, something to relax to. And I think it was like Ars Technica had an article about how it actually is like a secretly good Christmas movie, which makes sense because it is written by Shane Black, who is...
Yeah, I was going to say, is this one of those Shane Black movies that just happens to be set around Christmas time?
And it's such a delight. Like, there's so many... It's like such a tight little script, and Samuel L. Jackson is so good in it. He's so funny. He has like so many good one-liners. And also, I mean, Gina Davis has a lot of good one-liners too. And it also led me to an interesting thing. The main villain is Craig Bierko. Have you heard that name before?
No.
He's an interesting guy. And I was like, man, where do I know this guy from? And it's because earlier this year I watched for the second or third time, and I think I recommended it to you, The 13th Floor. And he is the main character in The 13th Floor.
Oh, yeah.
He would be a household name if he had made some different decisions in his life. He turned down, he was offered the role of Chandler on Friends.
Oh, man.
And he was like, I don't want to do this. And turned it down.
At the 13th Floor.
I know. And then he like went more into movies and I guess like Broadway stuff. So I don't think he really wanted to be on a TV show ever. He was maybe on the blacklist for a time, but he's a very charismatic guy. He made a really good villain. And I really liked him in 13th Floor as well. But just a weird guy that exists. But I if you're looking for, everyone always says like, oh, you should watch, what is it? Die Hard on Christmas, because Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Or one I used to watch would be like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is another Shane Black. But this one is really good, and if it really gives you that good 90s nostalgia too. It's like super duper 90s. There's a part where they like go to a phone center because they want to reroute a call, which like does not exist anymore. But yeah, The Long Kiss Goodnight is super solid. Some great Christmas musical drops. You hear a lot of great Christmas music in it. There's some beautiful old houses and like people are dressed like it's the 90s because it was. So if you're looking to still stay in the Christmas spirit, or if you're looking for something next year to watch around Christmas, The Long Kiss Goodnight, I think is a great movie, and it's a great alternative if you're die-harded out or if you don't want to watch a real Christmas movie.
Man, I'm going to have to put that down to watch because, yeah,
it's very good.
It's not the first time it's been recommended to me, and I just haven't gotten around to watching it. But
I gave it 5 stars on Letterboxd.
Oh, nice. Still doing Letterboxd?
I'm still doing Letterboxd.
Well, so I have a book recommendation. Oh. I got for Christmas a book called Falling into Oblivion. At least I think that's what it's called. It's a debut cyberpunk novel by a writer called Aaron M. Payne, I think is his name. But he has like a little author bio in the back of the book, which I read, and I guess he like started a YouTube channel a couple of years ago to interview like indie authors, and that just like spurred this desire to like write a book for himself. And so this is his debut novel, and it is basically just like an action movie in a cyberpunk setting where you have like a detective who's like trying to chase down this guy, and he ends up sort of in over his head, caught up in this like there's sort of this gang that's manufacturing this new type of drug that is like causing people with certain cyberpunk implants to like die, and he's trying to get to the bottom of it, and it all seems to take place in like one night, and it's just like kind
interesting.
Of this nonstop sort of thrill ride basically, and it's been very cool to read. I'm not finished with it just yet, but I've been enjoying it so far, and I think it's the first of what is going to be a series, so I think he's probably working on more of these, but it's not super long. I think it comes in at just under like 300 pages, so it's like not going to be super intimidating to read either. But it kind of is making me want to dive back into Cyberpunk 2077.
Here's 2 interesting things about this book.
Okay.
One, I'm looking at the Amazon page for it. I could not have predicted what the cover was based on the name.
Mm-hmm.
But the cover for this book is insane, and it makes me want to read it.
Yeah, it's got a pretty crazy cover art for sure. I think you would enjoy it for sure.
The pull quote at the top of this store page is from the guy who wrote the Sun Eater series.
Yeah, Christopher Rocchio is one of the people that has a pull quote on the back of the book, which was another reason that made me intrigued to read it. But yeah. If you're looking for like a cyberpunk sort of action film noir style book, then check out Falling into Oblivion. It's like from an indie author, so it's not super well known.
I'm going to add this to my wish list.
But yeah, check it out. And do you have any parting wisdom?
Yes.
And it is forthcoming.
Here it is. All right.
Here, I have some parting wisdom.
Yeah, go for it.
While you're thinking of that. So, a thing I started doing recently, if you, like, I'm trying to build more of a reading habit. We've sort of talked about this off and on over the last few podcasts. And one good way to sort of set a goal for yourself is to basically say, all right, I'm going to read this book in like a week. So you take the number of pages, you divide it by 7, you give yourself an amount of pages you have to read per day. Super simple, right? But you sort of learn your read rate and you learn what's realistic for you. And based on like how fast you read and how much time you have available to read. And so you will quickly realize that it's not realistic for me to read a 700-page book in a week because I can't read 100 pages per day.
Right.
So you like realize what's realistic for you, and you can sort of extend it out to like 2 weeks, and so you divide by 14 or something like that. But basically, that has been helping me keep on track as far as like knocking out books, which is how over the last several podcast episodes we've done, I've almost always had at least one book recommendation or book sort of in my what we're playing, watching / reading is I've been making little like reading plans like that where I'm like, if I can figure out like roughly 40 some pages per day, then I can read this book in a week or two, and it's been working out for me. So do that.
That's a great idea.
Now, what is your parting wisdom?
Zach, my brother visited over the weekend, and I took him around. We live in the Chicagoland area, and I wanted to take him. Neither of us had ever been to the aquarium, which I believe is called the Shed Aquarium. My parting wisdom is that you should not do that if the day you're going to go to the aquarium is the same day as a Bears game.
Ooh,
because...
yeah.
The aquarium is directly adjacent and, in fact, shares parking with the Bears Stadium, whatever that's called.
Soldier Field.
Soldier Field. And it is a traffic nightmare if you're just trying to have a chill time going to the aquarium. Instead, what I would recommend, if you do have to do that, the thing that saved the day for us, and this is perhaps only a Chicago-specific parting wisdom, there's an app called Spot Hero that allows you to look around a map and find parking spots all around a metropolitan area. And so I was able to, once we realized what we had gotten ourselves into, I was able to very quickly find a spot in a parking garage, and you can see like the price and you can pick how long you're going to be there. So I found one that was only like $15, and it was a little far away, so we had to walk, but that ended up being nice because we got to walk through like the city and the park. But Spot Hero, if you have to do something where you have to park downtown, it's worth taking a look at Spot Hero because a lot of things in a downtown metropolitan area don't have parking lots. So it like really releases a lot of stress to know that parking is taken care of by just being able, it like shows you where the parking garage is, it tells you instructions, and then you can just set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about street parking. Spot Hero is a hero, is my parting wisdom.
Yeah, I think I've only ever been down in that area when it would have been like off season for the NFL, so I wouldn't have run into that problem.
A great time to do it.
Yeah, that's the other. Just avoid going there during the NFL season.
Yeah.
And on that note, why don't you follow this podcast on YouTube, and where else are we? Spotify and YouTube Music. And yeah, leave us a rating and a review and comments and all of that. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.